This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil fell on Tuesday in volatile trade as concern over rising cases of the Delta coronavirus variant weighed on prices while expectations of a lower U.S. inventories lent some support. Benchmark Brent crude oil futures fell $1.22, or 1.7%, to $71.67 a barrel by 12:36 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, crude was down $1.42, or 2%, at $69.84 a barrel. Both had risen more than 60 cents earlier in the session. The oil market continues to alternate between concerns about tight supply on the one hand and about looming demand outages on the other, Commerzbank analysts said.
Saudi Aramco and other Gulf oil producers are following in the footsteps of Abu Dhabi with plans to raise tens of billions of dollars through sales of stakes in energy assets, capitalizing on a rebound in crude prices to attract foreign investors. The moves, in a region traditionally possessive of its refineries, power plants and pipelines, highlight the pressure on petrostates to raise funds to diversify their sources of revenue and to bolster national finances hit by a recent slump in oil prices and the coronavirus pandemic. After selling a significant minority stake in its oil pipelines to foreign investors for $12.4 billion in June, Saudi Aramco is weighing selling both downstream and upstream assets, two people familiar with the matter said.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
A trade group representing some of America's biggest baked goods companies is urging the Biden administration to ratchet back its biofuel ambitions, arguing that using fuel made from crops could raise the cost of donuts, bread and other foods. The complaints mark an unusual entrance by the food industry into the U.S. energy policy debate, and puts it in an unwitting alliance with Big Oil, which has for years opposed regulations requiring that fuels made from corn, soybeans and other crops be added to the nation's gasoline and diesel. The American Bakers Association, which represents companies like the grocer Kroger, donut maker Krispy Kreme and Tastykake parent company Flour Foods, told Reuters it met with the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, last week to urge reduced blending mandates, particularly for biodiesel.
U.S. crude and product stocks likely fell last week with both distillates and gasoline stockpiles forecasted to have eased for a third straight week, an extended Reuters poll showed on Tuesday. 10 analysts polled by Reuters estimated, on average, that crude stocks dropped by about 3.1 million barrels in the week to July 30th. Crude inventories fell by 4.1 million barrels to 435.6 million barrels in the prior week. That was the lowest since January 2020 and the decline was more than the 2.9 million barrels expected by analysts in the Reuters poll. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Copper prices declined for a third session on Tuesday on worries that the rapid spread of powerful COVID-19 variants could spur further lockdowns and curb demand for industrial metals. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange, LME, slipped 1.5% to $9,557.50 a ton by 16:25 GMT. LME copper has eased from a record peak of $10,747.50 touched in May but is still up 24% this year. Investors were concerned over a combination of renewed lockdowns because of the Delta coronavirus variant and weaker factory data on Monday.
Gold steadied on Tuesday, buoyed by worries over the spread of the coronavirus Delta variant and weaker bond yields, although caution over U.S. jobs data later this week kept bullion locked in a tight range. Spot gold was steady at $1,812.36 per ounce by 10:16 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 14:16 GMT, while U.S. gold futures fell 0.4% to $1,814.90. Gold is stuck in a consolidation pattern ahead of Friday's non-farm payroll report. Delta variant concerns and falling global bond yield should be supportive for gold prices, said Edward Moyer, senior market analyst at Oanda.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Chicago soybean futures sank on Tuesday after the previous day's better-than-expected crop conditions report coupled with forecasts for rain across the U.S. Midwest as the oilseed begins to set seed pods. Corn and wheat also fell but found support from earlier hot, dry weather that will likely cut yields. The most active soybean contract on the Chicago Board of Trade, CBOT, lost 35.5 cents to $13.18 per bushel by 11:43 a.m. Central Daylight Saving Time, earlier falling to $13.08 3 quarters, its lowest level since July 6. CBOT wheat fell 10 cents to $7.19 -1/2 per bushel, while CBOT corn dropped 8.5 cents to $5.50 -3 quarters per bushel. That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.